Welcome, Deborah. Glad to have you in here. Give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me. All right. Not hearing anything. I'm hearing things. I just don't know that she is. All right. Welcome, Southern. Let's get. Oh, okay. There we go. I see a thumbs up. So you are hearing me. That's good. All right. Southern sending you a co host invite. All right. Welcome up, Southern. How are you doing, ma'am?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. I'll be honest with you. I'm cautiously optimistic. When you sit at the polls as frequently as I did and for as many hours, and I will be doing it again all the rest of the week. Again, I'm the candidate, so are people lying me and giving me the thumbs up or the smiles? I don't know, but I would tell you I think he's in more of a race than he thought he was in for. So we'll see. And his texts that he's sending out lately are just complete and utter falsehoods. It's actually funny now. I mean, it's gone past the point of being irritated or upset by it to the point where I'm honestly embarrassed for him about it, because when you know he's just outright lying, it's comical. So, what is up with you? What are you investigating lately? What's your team up to?
It's Al Epstein. But someone always filling in on old stuff. So there was a trucker that got arrested in Missouri. Don't quote me on that one. After killing several people, and we finally got the video on that. So that was released yesterday.
Cool. All right. And what's the latest on the Carmelo Anthony? Aren't we getting close to getting to trial on that?
June 1st.
June 1st. Okay. This obviously this year is flying by for me. I mean, I realize we're the 23rd of February. That's incredible to me that I think, I have been in constant campaign mode for so long that I've really kind of forgotten what day it is. I'm not kidding you. Yesterday I was sitting there and I started panicking all of a second that tomorrow was Valentine's Day and I had forgotten everything. And I had already bought her chocolates and, a nice card and all this stuff. But yeah, I was like, good Lord, I need to get a grip on what day it is. So I have not talked to Dr. A yet today, and I have texted her, so I don't know what's going on with her now. Again, she's running her campaign, so who knows? Do you know if she was in any spaces, and what has been the topic in spaces? The Iran buildup, more Epstein? What are we talking about?
So we always cover what's going to happen. So of course Iran, and then Mexico, and whatever happens day to day, the shooting at Mar-a-Lago, whatever. Yeah. Try to kill the president, we're going to kill you, whatever. When it comes to everything else, it just depends on the day. If nothing really happened, or if it was a really heavy day, then we just don't talk about anything. We just sit there and talk to each other, try to decompress.
Yep, nope, I get that. I know your space is a lot more informal, and that's a good thing. So we'll see what happens, after the election. There are a lot of people that believe I'm going to be campaigning until May 26th, which is when, if there is a runoff election, when we'll be going to. Go ahead, Raging.
Good morning, Colonel. How you doing? I hope you have a fabulous Monday.
You too.
Let's keep pushing on that campaign. I wanted to say a couple things that people are missing, and I reposted it in my space, and I'll probably put it in the purple pill here. What happened in Mexico has far bigger reach than people understand. The reason that the U.S. was not directly involved in the apprehension of this man is Mexican cartel leaders, this happens to them all the time. How does it happen? What are you talking about, Rigo? You guys say they kill them. They kill him because they're going to speak. They're going to chirp like a birdie. They captured his son, which knows some. But this guy, Nemesio, El Mencho, had far-reaching implications. Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda training for the people of his little paramilitary narco-cartel force that he has there in Mexico. He had them trained by these people. There are rumors that even Ukraine was involved in some of the training. The far-reaching aspects of this man and the things that he knew, okay, that could have toppled that country tipped it finally over the edge to let people understand that the government is controlled by the cartel and outside influencers, including CCP. Okay, people don't understand that he died for a reason. We're cheering on that he got captured, but the part that he died, that's where we should say, wait, why did he die? Why didn't, if he was alive on the helicopter, because he was alive on the helicopter, why did they not administer first aid? The reason is they couldn't let him live. The deep state that's embedded in Mexico came from us. Everything that you see that's going on there happens because we allow it to happen. It's the truth. We allow it to happen. Do we control the government? No, we allow it to happen. It's a difference. Okay. There are deep ties here that people are not asking. How did they get all that gear? How was that smuggled into the country if it's illegal? There's more here than meets the eye. The sad part is they let him die for that same reason. He would have probably implicated the president and several other governmental officials in that country. If you take a real good look at this situation, if you go and you do the deep dive the way we do it here with me and some folks that take a good look at Latin America, okay, there are numerous cartel bosses being detained and or eliminated across this country. And people don't understand they're being eliminated because they're a lead or part of the spider web for us to find out who is really infiltrating Latin America and where's it coming from. Who is the real head of the snake? That's what we need to find. Yeah, it's a great thing that he got, taken out, but we lost a great source of information. If the U.S. was really involved, hands-on, not just intelligence, I believe we would have captured him alive. Excuse me. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
No, I totally agree with you. Quick question, formatically, Raging. We are going to cover that topic, so I'm going to hold for now on that because I've got the Narco-State erupts and violence as the first topic. Southern, how do I move something into the nest? Apparently X has changed how it does it. I used to know how to do it, but I've got it in the pill, the content that we're going to cover today, but I don't have anything in the, I don't know how to get it into the nest right now.
It's still the arrow, but if you look down at the bottom, you kind of have to scroll over to the right, and it's like one of the last ones now.
Scroll to the right.
I can do it for you.
Yeah, please, if you don't mind. All right,
I didn't see your agenda, Colonel, so I apologize.
No, that's okay.
I have a lot of information for you.
Well, it is the first topic we're going to cover after the rant, so please stay on. That way we can get to it. So, but I'm kind of forward looking on that one as well. But I mean, you are absolutely right because I got that snicker when I saw that he had died in the helicopter flight. I was like, yeah, did he accidentally fall out of it? I mean, I was wondering what had happened to him there. So, yeah, you are not wrong, sir. I had the exact same suspicion because if you think about it, especially this guy, Mencho, and we're going to cover this, but he is reportedly, he had more political ties into the system than any other drug lord before. So he is definitely giving people the plata or plumbo test or choice. So we'll see. But we're going to cover that in a bit. I will try and text Dr. A, but I have no idea where she is. Southern, there wasn't a message I might have missed in our little private DMing. Is there?
Look now.
Okay, thank you. So, all right, everyone, we're going to start in about 6 minutes. And, I encourage you to grab a mic. This is a small panel right now. But we are also live streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, and also X. And do we have TikTok up and running? It's easy for me to say. Do we have TikTok up and running yet? Okay. All right. So we're working on that as well, but that's probably just as well because I will be talking about China. Still love the way he says that. I don't think I'll ever get over that. Go ahead, Southern.
Are we on TikTok? Because there are certain words that I use that you cannot use there.
No, we're not yet.
Okay.
So good to know. And what are those words? Just so I know, they're not the 7 George Carlin words. Are they? Dating myself?
Killed, murdered, drugs, basic reporting words you cannot use there. You have to say like smurdered, unalive,
okay.
undid himself. Like there's a lot of words you can't use there. So that's why I was asking.
You know what? I wish Trump would go ahead and make them sell that to us. I saw something in the news about that, on ByteDance the other day, but I didn't follow it up because my time is focused entirely on House District 106. There was a great text message that got sent out on my behalf that showed my opponent with like crazy LA glasses, because he did vote for $1.5 million to go to Hollywood out of the Texas taxpayers' funding. So it's good to have people acting on your behalf, even though you've got no control over their content, timing, or wherever they do that. But I think that has to be the way it is for campaign finance laws. So anyway, speaking of, he's also lying and saying that we got fined by the Texas Electoral or Ethics Commission. I think I'd know if we got fined, and we haven't been fined. So, I mean, again, how do you know he's lying? His lips are moving. All right, it is 10:56. Let me go over the rules real quick. If you go too long, we'll ding you with a bell. That hasn't happened in forever. No profanity on the show. My mom listens, and eventually you will answer to the man above for your potty mouth. And I say that having one occasionally myself. So I'm not, ignoring the splinter or commenting on the splinter in your eye and ignoring the log in mine. That is something I need to work on. So there's that. And then also wait your turn. Don't talk over other people. All right. It is 10:57 right now. And what we've got going on today in terms of the question is, who is your favorite American president and why? I'll start. I love President Trump quite a bit. I think he's great for America. But in terms of consequential leadership, it's hard to go. George Washington, he was the first. He set up the entire government. He won the Revolutionary War. Hard to argue against him being the best president. But the question was your favorite president. Now, Lincoln held together the Union. He's also a strong candidate. But in my mind, it's Ronald Reagan. And I think I'm going to call it recency bias. And my reason for that is I really thought that Russia or the Soviet Union at the time was going to erupt and try and take over Europe as they were falling. And Ronald Reagan's buildup, American military buildup, was so great that he ended the Cold War by himself. There's a great book called Crusader about Ronald Reagan, and you need to read it. But the other thing I love about him, and I've tried to mimic a lot of the things that he does, is his self-deprecating humor, when he's on the stand. His ability to laugh at himself, to laugh at situations, and they called him Teflon Ron because nothing stuck to him. Now, I'm hoping that a little bit of that is rubbed off on me, but who knows? So Ronald Reagan is my favorite president. What about you, Southern? Who's your favorite president and why?
So mine actually is George Washington, and it's because he knew that he could do nothing further for the country. So he stepped aside and allowed the next person to come up.
There's an HBO show that I watched called John Adams, and in it, Abigail Adams comments on what an extraordinary man George Washington was. His military officers wanted to make him king at one point, and he silenced them all just by saying, I'm sorry, let me back up a second. He was going to read a statement to them. And he took out his glasses out of his pocket, put them on his face, and he said, the loss of my eyesight is but a small price to pay in the service of my country. And so that immediately shut up all dissent from his officer corps who had not been paid, and it shamed them into behaving. But you're right, Southern. His stepping down after 2 terms, honestly was an incredible act for a man and highly different at that point in time. We were truly lucky. And I've often said we have been truly lucky as a nation to have good men right when we needed them. I don't like him that much, but FDR had the wisdom and foresight to begin the military buildup, which led to our triumph in World War II, about a year and a half prior to us actually getting involved. Lincoln holding the Union together and in some cases violating the Constitution to do so, but it needed to happen. Remember, the president's ultimate job is to ensure that the Constitution and the Union remain together. So it was incredible. All right, Raging, what about you? Who's your favorite president? And then we'll get going.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby. I had to throw that up there, but yeah, I like him a lot.
All right. So not a problem at all. I will tell you the White House's Twitter game is incredibly strong. For those of you that didn't see it, they quoted Trudeau saying that you can't take our country and you can't take our game. And then the White House posted a picture of a bald eagle with its claws sitting on top of a loon. I was like, wow. So that was just that was top notch. And whoever did the AI video of Trump playing hockey, you know, they deserve another. I would say they won the internet for the weekend. I would say that, but honestly, it's that company that I think it's a fish restaurant that had a simple 2-word response to that we're not going to say on the air to the Huffington Post trying to shame Americans for being happy about flag waving. It was incredible, and I went and followed them today, but I think they were at like 8.5 million follows. Or I'm sorry, not follows, but you know, comments on that thing. But it was an incredible response to them. You know, my response was just simply, we don't hate the media enough. All right, everybody. It is now 1 minute past high noon. This is The Reckoning, 23 February 2026. Show number 315, and 1 hour of unfiltered political truth starts now. Now, faith, it's a simple word, but it has so many different meanings. Faith is the belief in something that might not be tangible, that you can't touch, or it could even be the hope for a result you don't know will come. So let's break it down. Now, there's faith in God. Now, people like to argue about this, but I have a highly scientific mind and a mathematic mind. And I've concluded that it is absolutely impossible for this universe to have been created without intelligent design. So I believe in God mathematically on the basis of physics, but I'm also thankful that I had my faith tested. Now, when you're thrown into a prison cell and put into isolation, the only thing you have left is yourself and all the things that if you fed yourself going into that situation. Now, I'm not talking about food, but rather books, philosophy, the Bible, your life story, your life experiences, the teachings from your parents and grandparents. Okay, all of these things play into your story. All right, so you have time to confidently reflect on who you really are. So I'm telling you right now, I absolutely 100% believe that the God of the Bible is real and was there with me. All right, he's there and he's waiting for you. And if you don't discover him personally, it will be the worst mistake of your life. So let's go into the lesser faiths. Faith in the country. I've often said, and I still believe, that America is the land that never has been yet must be. Those aren't my words. They're the words of a famous poet and a man who probably experienced more discrimination than I can even imagine. America, the very idea is impossible to get to. Imagine this, a nation founded on laws where citizens responsibly vote with knowledge, a republic where incorruptible leaders do what is right for the American people, and a justice system where all men are indeed innocent until they're proven guilty. Now, we know these things aren't reality now, and honestly, they reached their lowest point, their nadir, under the illegitimate and criminal Biden regime. But these are things that can be reality if good and virtuous Christian men and women strive to implement them. And I believe we're taking steps to once again take control of our government and make it align with the God of the Bible, which is how we will become again a virtuous nation. So what about faith and results? I'll tell you right now, I have no idea how next Tuesday is going to turn out. What I do know is that I've left everything on the field. The work is mine, results are God's. I have a great team of people working for me, from the volunteers that are out block walking even today, or pole greeting today, from my marketing team that increased my my presence on social media dramatically, to even a lady that couldn't block walk, apologized to me for it, but then said, "What can I do for the campaign?" Well, she put 9,000 sheets of paper inside laminates so that we could run them through the laminating machine. My wife bought 8 laminators, and I called it the lamination station, and she would get going, and we put all of those 9,000 laminated sheets out to our block walkers, and they distributed them to the people in the district. So regardless of how this turns out, it's been a learning experience. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Based off what I saw at the polls last week, I believe I'm going to win. I could be wrong. I could be utterly humiliated Tuesday night. But you know what? results are God's, the work is mine, and I put the work into it. And so have so many people behind me that I will feel that I have let them down if I do not succeed. It will be my failure and not theirs. They have done everything to get me elected. Now, this really is a David and Goliath situation. He has outspent me probably either 10 to 1 or 15 to 1 by this point. All right. And I'm not Goliath, unfortunately, but the sling and the stone are in my hands. And I do have faith and belief in the American people. It has never wavered, even when you threw me into a prison cell. I knew that was not you. It was the bad people in our government. And I knew that the American people would deliver me on November, and you did when you elected President Trump. So I believe that on March the 3rd, Goliath will fall. So God bless you all. That's my daily campaign update. And I can't wait to talk to you, which I'm going to see if he has the space available. But next Wednesday, we're probably going to do a special reckoning where I'll either pour out why I lost or celebrate the win with you guys. So I appreciate you being here. All right. Any comments on that, Southern?
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. So it's, it's one of those situations. They always say that money wins. Well, we're going to find out. I'm going to be honest with you. It usually does. That's why we hate its corrosive influence inside of our system. When I was filling out my campaign finance report yesterday, or to be more honest, when my wife was filling out my campaign finance report, it was amazing to me to go through all the small donations and see the fact that I have not taken a single dime of PAC money, not one penny. It is all grassroots support. And my opponent has taken money from the Sands Casino lobby, from the Texans for Lawsuit Reform lobby. Matter of fact, you probably can't name a lobby that he hasn't taken money from. He's taken money from all of them. It's really incredible that we're even competitive, but I believe we're going to win. All right. So now let's talk about Mexico for a second. Now, Mexico has been a failed narco-state for a long time, and we've honestly just ignored it. Now, I have my own theory about that. I believe our politicians in Washington, D.C. are bought and paid for because Mexico has no military to speak of. It would take probably, I could get just a fraction of the registered hunters in the state of Texas, and if you give them a bag limit, we could take out the Mexican military in about a day. I don't know that they have a single fighter aircraft. And if they do, an F-22, to make it fair, I think the F-22 would have to fly in front of them and then pivot and start. We used to practice different basic fighter maneuver games. And so you'd always start with the enemy right on your tail, defensive, before you went to offensive. Again, Mexico has no military. And I can tell you from my time as a reconnaissance pilot for the United States Air Force, we can find you. You carry one of these around, we will find you. And so for us not to have done something to the drug cartels that have poisoned and killed so many of our citizens, they have to be paying somebody off somewhere. It's probably our senators and our congressmen in both parties. Again, I'm sorry, but I just believe the system is so corrupt that has to be the reason why we have not done anything. And let's be honest, our CIA probably ran an operation where they let little girls be raped to gain intel on foreign leaders. So why wouldn't our CIA run an operation where the drug lords are kicking back up to them? I hate to say this. Southern, I did not immediately echo your sentiment on the CIA burning it to the ground. But as I've seen more and more evidence on Epstein, I am right there with you. I've already said the FBI has got to go, and Kash Patel just reinforced that for me yesterday. What the heck is the FBI director doing, celebrating in a hockey room? Honestly, politicians do that all the time, and it's something I swore I will never do. It's one thing to congratulate a team, and I get that, but to be in the room at their moment of triumph, that's just not something you do. It's crossing the line. Go ahead, Southern.
On the one hand, I do agree with you, and that was my first response to the whole situation, was why is he there? But do we know if the hockey team requested for him to be there?
I don't, in fairness.
Okay.
All right,
that
go ahead.
That would be my only thing on it. It's if they requested him specifically, then I don't have an issue with it.
Yes, ma'am. What about you, Raging?
Okay, so everything that I said earlier and what you're saying is true. There are reports that some of our people here in the United States, elected politicians, are paid off cartel people. I wanted everybody to understand the FBI is not doing the job that they should be doing. NSA, Tulsi Gabbard. I hope Tulsi Gabbard's doing something on the backside. There's such far-reaching situations happening with this criminal organization that's global. It's not even just that country.
Yep.
It's absolutely infiltrated our country, where they have even, they learn from what you want to talk about a little bit later. They learn the tribes. They do enter.
Hey, Raging, you're rugging.
Make them work at the
Yeah, hey, I'm losing you. So hold your thought, because I'm going to let me go through a couple of points on this, and then we'll come right back to you, try and get in a better area. All right, so Mexico's Ministry of Defense announced on X, which I like the fact that X is where government organizations are announcing things. Now, they may have announced it elsewhere first, but, I do like the fact that they're putting it out there, that a military operation targeting the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, in the Tapalpa area resulted in the death of cartel leader Nemesio Mencho Oseguera. See, I'm trying to sound Spanish there. Oseguera. All right, making fun of that skit. Anyway, Oseguera was known for his sophisticated paramilitary tactics and the deployment of hundreds of well-equipped and well-trained gunmen. He controlled vast swaths of territory in Jalisco, and he has been expanding his influence and was locked in a bloody struggle for control of, let's see if I can say this, Michoacan State in western Mexico. Now, when they attacked, troops obviously came under, attack and return fire. Okay, again, let's listen to this phrasing. In defense of their integrity. Okay, dude, whoever's writing this, just stop. Maybe it has a different Spanish meaning that we're not quite interpreting correctly, but okay, listen, they were shot at, they fired back, and they killed the bad guys. Just quit playing games like trying to soften it, all right? They got what they deserve. They're cartel members, all right? Hopefully it was painful and they died in agony. That's how I feel about it. All right, so 4 CJNG members were dead at the incident area, okay, at the site of the raid, and 3 others were critically wounded. The ministry stated that 3 later died during a medevac transfer to Mexico City, including Mencho. And again, all I can think of is throwing communists out of helicopters. So I get that, this probably, maybe they died of the gunshots. Maybe the fingers went into the wound and just twisted a little bit to make sure the bleeding continued. All right, the statement noted that the National Guard and Mexican Army units were deployed into the Jalisco area to reinforce security amid retaliatory unrest this afternoon. Now, Guadalajara, Mexico's 3rd largest city and the capital of Jalisco, was plunged into instant chaos as their foot soldiers sparked narco-terrorism operations. All right, it spread into popular beach resort towns, Puerto Vallarta, across Mexico as gunmen torched retail shops, gas stations, vehicles, and blockaded highways. Now, the U.S. Embassy in Mexico has told Americans to shelter in place across the Jalisco state, Puerto Vallarta, Chapala, Guadalajara, and a few other towns that are hard to pronounce. All right. But they also claim that the U.S. provided intelligence support to the Mexican Army Special Forces, aided by both aircraft and the National Guard's Immediate Reaction Force. How? Okay, what did the National Guard's Immediate Reaction Force do? Now, I do believe that and that probably we had aircraft overhead to make sure he was actually where we thought he was going to be. Why? Because I've done things like that for the U.S. government when we were targeting terrorists in Afghanistan and Iraq. So it does not surprise me at all for that statement to be there, but the intelligence support aided by aircraft and the National Guard's Immediate Reaction Force, that I don't quite understand, so I'm real curious what we did there. Now, there are two immediate questions in the aftermath of this. The first is, will CJNG be able to survive? Does it have a successor? Are they as organized as Cosa Nostra? I don't know if they are or not. The cartel could splinter, and there could be internal power struggles that lead to a lot of unrest. And then the next is, can Mexico's military sustain a multi-front fight, because it now faces both CJNG and the Sinaloa cartel? Now, their own people, all right, Eduardo Guerrero, a Mexican security official and cartel expert, told the New York Times, again, suspect, this is undoubtedly the most important blow that has been dealt to drug trafficking in Mexico since drug trafficking existed in Mexico. I'm not sure about that. El Chapo might disagree with you. All right, he says, never in Mexico has there been an organization with the presence, territorial control, or political penetration, to get to Rigo's point, that JNGC had, or I'm sorry, CJNG. All right, I'm reading the English version rather than the Spanish acronym. The cartels that we had in Mexico before them were more regional in nature. Now, El Mencho, that's the guy's nickname that was killed, could elevate into near-term spillover risks into the U.S., especially given the fact that the illegitimate and criminal Biden regime let so many invaders into our country. So what do I think is going to happen? If a strong man does not immediately take over, or if we start to see Americans taken hostage, or we see spillover into the United States, you will see the American military react swiftly. Now, as of 7:49 this morning, when I was writing this out, flights had not resumed into the area, but we're going to need to get our citizens out. So what will we need to do? We're going to need to take control of an airfield. The 82nd Airborne trains all the time in airfield seizures. We're going to need to establish a defensive perimeter, and we're going to need to bring enough helicopters and logistics in to rescue the Americans that might be in the area. So we shall see if that actually comes up. Did I miss anything, Southern, that you might have seen? And same question for you, Raging, after her.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Just checking before I speak.
Yeah, I've got you loud and clear. Southern, do you have anything, ma'am?
Oh, I was going to let Raging go. No, I think you covered it all. I see more rumors and speculation than you do, so I'll just stick with the actual facts.
Okay, I mean that's the facts, but I'm just telling you it's the 82nd Airborne has troops on alert at all time to respond to situations like this. So we'll see if they actually get involved. All right, Raging, what did I miss?
You missed the part where there's rumors that the cartel is paying some of our politicians here. They are indirectly funds from the cartel to these people through NGOs or whatnot. So there is a far-reaching aspect. One of the things that I was talking about was the connection to the CCP. How did these people learn how to become so organized? They learned it from the CCP, the triads.
Yep.
People that came over and taught them how to do things. They put people into indentured servitude here in the United States. They don't have the money. That's about $15,000 to get smuggled across that border illegally. When they don't have that money, what they do is they tell them, okay, you're going to come over here and you're going to work for us for X amount of years for free. And that's kind of how it works. So a lot of these places that you see with illegals there on the street, pop-up, diners, stuff like that, food carts, if you actually were ever to stop at one of them and ask them a couple questions, you would see what I'm talking about. How they're not even, some of them are not even, they're not Mexican nationals. They're from South America, straight up, the accent, the whole 9 yards, and they're working at these places. So you have to ask yourself, how is this happening? It's happening to the cartels. Now, the cartels' number one business, human trafficking. Don't forget, human trafficking is way bigger for them. This is including the bringing illegals here, the organ harvesting, situations like this, the ovens, the Nazi ovens that they found in northern Mexico where they were performing all of this. So again, I go back to Nemesio's death was planned. It was planned because he knew too much. And if he opens up his mouth, hey, it all blows up on whoever's involved in this. Again, multiple global ties. Thank you.
No, you're absolutely not wrong. But again, here's the crazy thing. I mean, we know they communicate via iPhones or personal handheld phones. of some type, and that means that they're susceptible to U.S. intelligence. I guarantee you somebody inside our national security apparatus knows exactly which senators and exactly which congressmen have been paid. And I'm honestly sick of it. I really, truly am. I think I've had enough of our Congress being so corrupt. I mean, we can't even get a simple SAVE Act through. You know, we can't get them to do anything good for the country at all. You know, we identified how much in Doge fraud and they just throw the money right back into it. I mean, even in my own state, it's been revealed that over $4 billion has gone to the construction of mosques and the assistance of the Islamic invasion of Texas since 2017. My opponent has been in office since 2019. All right, so he has facilitated part of that money going to them. All right. You know, I
put an article in your purple pill.
Okay.
Colonel regarding Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, Muslim radicals involved with the cartel and how they were using our backdoor to try to subvert the United States. Feel free to read it, guys. It's pretty good.
You know, I mean, and again, hopefully it names names. I know there's rumors that Ruben Gallega is a cartel operative. Is he the senator from Arizona, or am I messing him up with the senator from California right now?
Arizona.
Yeah, I thought I had the right name there. It's a shame Gen X isn't here because she could definitely tell us. All right, let's move on from that topic to another one that is near and dear to my heart, and that is climate change. All right. Apparently, leftists are changing their religion a little bit. Now, the question I really kind of have is, did they ever really believe it to begin with? All right. Now, environmental scholar Bjorn Lomborg recently calculated that across the globe, governments have spent $16 trillion feeding the climate change industrial complex. $16 trillion. Do you realize that we probably could have done something about malaria? I mean, the untold number of deaths that we could have stopped with $16 trillion. It's just revolting to me that they actually wasted that money. And you know, it just got lined back into some scummy politicians' pockets. But since the global warming crusade started 30 years ago, would you like to know how much the temperature of the planet has altered? 1/10 of a degree. 1/10 of a degree. $16 trillion has been spent, and there's not a penny of measurable payoff. 1/10 of a degree. That big yellow ball, 93 million miles away from the Earth, has a lot more to do than anything us insignificant fleas on the surface of this planet can do to it, short of nuclear war, which would dramatically cool the planet after its initial dramatic temperature rise. And hopefully we're not about to trigger that. That's topic 4, I believe. All right. So, I mean, $16 trillion, that's more profitable than running a Somali daycare or a Leering Center in Minnesota. It's incredible. You know, it's important that we identify green climate change derangement syndrome as perhaps the most inhumane political movement in history. $16 trillion. 1/10 of a degree. Global warming and Al Gore's hockey stick became climate change when they couldn't withstand the mocking. All right. Again, it's ridiculous, you know, but where are these people going? All right. Why? Okay, because it's difficult to even think of anything that comes close to rivaling the number of government mandates implemented and the amount of tax dollars wasted to reshape society as happened in the name of climate change. All right, now surely it wasn't based on empty rhetoric and misdirection. Oh, wait, it was. Quick side note here. My opponent, Jihad Jared, wanted Texans to pay for carbon offsets. Texas, what are you going to do, bud? Tax me on my barbecue, the smoke coming out of my pellet grill? Good Lord, man. Texas, and he wants carbon offsets. Guy's really a Californian. That's all I'm going to say. All right, now in 2024, all right, they were at it again. Remember, they were saying that the worst case climate change scenario and that if Donald Trump and the Republicans are elected, the world will all of a sudden implode. And yet here we are. The sun comes up in the east and sets in the west. All right. Now, Democrats are showing that they've decided that climate change is a losing message. You know, the polls have been showing that for like 8 years. It's ridiculous that they're continuing to say this. Now, Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii, who called himself a climate hawk. I mean, you know, social justice warrior, climate hawk. Quit appropriating military terms for your weak and wimpy political stances. You're not impressing me. Anyway, Senator Schatz, I had to say that very carefully, said that those of us in the climate community who are used to making a more broad argument about where we are in the sweep of history have to get comfortable making a more immediate argument that says the reason prices are going up is a deliberate policy choice of the Republican Party. Let me translate that into English. Nobody cares about climate change, so I've got to pivot to something that they might care about, and they're trying to blame the cost of things on the Republican Party. Now, so I got to thinking about it. You know, I'm not a politician that doesn't do his own grocery shopping. I go to Walmart. I go to Tom Thumb, Kroger, all the other places here, stores in Texas. All right, have the prices gone up other than beef? Gas is down. Eggs are down. Bread seems to be about the same. Now, there are some food items that are a little bit higher, but mainly the only thing that I'm paying a lot more for that I notice is beef. But Southern, and I'm not meaning to be sexist by this, I just believe in our previous conversations that you've said that you do the shopping for your family. So have prices gone down other than beef, or what are you seeing?
Not so much on beef. I've seen it on eggs. Like, I'm paying half of what I was. But other than that, no, my grocery costs are still very high.
They're still very high, but have they plateaued, or were they higher under Biden? You know, are we seeing, I'm going to call it a lessening of increase, or are we seeing an actual flat line or a decrease?
I'm not seeing it except for eggs and some meat.
Well, I think, because of my job that I have right now, other than running for office, gas is hypersensitive to me. It's my largest cost to my business. So, I'm obviously very happy with what Trump has done. But let's get back to the climate change religion. Now, the harsh winter experience so far has resulted in Americans witnessing the limits of their preferred energy sources. For example, the last week of January saw social media plastered with images of solar panels caked with snow. All right, wind turbines do freeze. That happened to us in 2021 in Texas. Now, our grid was able to hang on with the last snap we had, but it was because of the increases in reliable fuel sources or reliable electric generation, namely natural gas, oil, and nuclear power. This nation is significantly behind China. And I believe I said in another story a while ago that there are 30 nuclear power plants being built in China. We need power for AI, power for data centers, and we also need water for data centers. But that's a different story. So left to the tender mercies of wind and solar, all right, with New Englanders and most of the U.S. population would have been stranded had they not had backups of natural gas, oil, and nuclear power. I get that wind and solar are appealing. We like the idea that we have renewable energy there, and we do. But let's not forget that we were given dominion over the planet. And as, what's his name? Billy, I can't think of the actor's name, but as he said in Landman, our economy is petroleum-based, period. That's it. So, now, Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And there's a lot of truth to that. So did we just not understand it? They tried to tell us all that we didn't understand it. But I think, 1/10 of 1 degree, Americans can understand that perfectly. I think no matter how many histrionics you're going to try and lecture me with carbon percentages, 1/10 of 1 degree is not worth me having to triple my gasoline prices. Give me a break. Now, fortunately, in the United States, we have a great president. President Trump recently told reporters that his administration was rescinding the 2009 Obama-era endangerment finding. a determination that greenhouse gases threaten public health and welfare, which he said has been used by the radical left to justify $1.3 trillion in regulatory costs that have hurt American households. Again, don't know where all that's coming from, don't know what effect that will have, but what I can say is government deregulation by and large results in better quality of life for the American people. The market works when the government leaves it alone. All right, so this is apparently the single largest deregulatory action in American history. That's a big statement. I think it's the largest in terms of actual dollar impact, but we'll see. And, you know, I'm going to tell you right now that I often think that I'm cursed with the ability to wave the Bravo Sierra flag early. Now, I knew climate change was a hoax right almost from the beginning. And it's because I took the time to read, you know, that they were moving the temperature gauges into more urban areas from where they had always been to generate what they wanted in terms of scientific results. So we knew that was a hoax from the beginning. I also knew that the 2020 election was stolen, and I just struggle, I think, personally, to go along with garbage. Now, in aviation, there's a term called situational awareness. And I would tell you that about 100 hours into being an A-10 pilot, so, you know, when I became comfortable flying the airplane and comfortable with my role, my ability to see the battlefield and how to manipulate it grew rapidly, like Al Gore's proverbial hockey stick, except it was actually reality. You know, it let me cut through a lot of garbage in war and get to the simple point, which is always find the target, fix the target, kill the target without getting killed. And, you know, sometimes there's threats you have to deal with and you might need to move away for a while. There's the intelligence of I want to pull off of my target into the sun so that it's more difficult for them to shoot me with a heat-seeking missile. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. What do I take out first? Which ordnance do I use first? The Maverick missile or the bombs? I mean, there's a lot of things you learn, and it was a good thing to do, but it trained me to cut through the chaff in the modern news to the truth. And seeing the truth ahead of when a lot of Americans do is actually a curse. I am really worried about where we are heading as a country. And I'm worried about it, and I don't know that I've been able to tell my fellow Americans, because I said something the other day at a candidate forum, and then I immediately corrected myself. You don't teach anybody anything when you're standing up on the stage. You tell Americans things, and you ask for their assent or their acknowledgement. You sound so incredibly arrogant when you say, let me teach you something. No, I'm not that guy. All right, I'm going to tell you what I think is true, and you can tell me I'm wrong. But, you know, I do think that we've finally seen this, you know, a lot. So, you know, I could see this, and that the 2020 election was stolen and it landed me in jail because I couldn't see the fact that the regime had to cover up its theft of the presidency. So my question, and it was for Dr. A, but she's not here, is, you know, Southern, do you think that our fellow citizens really still believe in this garbage, even the leftists?
I believe there are some leftists that do. As far as everybody else, though, not anymore.
Okay. No, I mean, what about you, Rigo? Do you think that?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do you feel like anybody still really believes in climate change? Man-made climate change. I mean, of course the climate changes.
Anybody with a...
Yep.
No, absolutely not. I've been trying to explain to people for about 2 years what continental drift and mantle crust displacement is, and how seasons will change because the Earth has not stopped moving. It spins on its axis. And slowly but surely, certain parts of the world might get colder, might not, depend on the magnetic pull of these poles. I don't understand how people don't use real science, and they believe Al Gore, who says he invented the internet, by the way. Ha, 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 sure you did.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. You know, it's amazing the claims that politicians make. All right, like my opponent is saying that he's given us $51 billion in property tax relief, yet it's at an all-time high. So, but again, think about that for a second. He's saying, please pat me on my little head because I'm not taking $7,000 more a year out of your wallet. So, I mean, that's what property tax relief is. Okay, so he's saying that we should be paying $7,000 more, but the state is paying that down. It's insanity, absolute insanity. But let's change to, I'm sorry, TX Elizabeth, didn't see your hand, ma'am. Let me get to you, and then we're going to talk about Trump and China.
Thank you. On the climate change, how I managed to change some minds was using a little bit of educational logic at a very low rate. I explained to people, Dallas-Fort Worth is a huge metroplex. Back in the 60s, people didn't worry about it being so hot. Why? Simple. We had concrete and glass come into buildings, and there are thousands and thousands of buildings and homes and everything else. That's why this part of Texas is hotter now than it was back in the 60s.
Yes, ma'am. And
that's how
go ahead.
I've managed to change a few minds.
No, you're absolutely right. So imagine if you took, a temperature reading gauge that was in the middle of Bowie, Texas, to give a rural example, and then you put it smack dab in the middle of all that concrete and glass, you're absolutely right. You're going to get a temperature increase. And that's exactly what they did. It's funny, though, even before man-made climate change, I'll tell you right now, the hottest temperatures that I can remember as a Texan, I believe we had 100 days of 100-degree weather, and it was either 82 or 83. And so my summer track coach, he would be fired so quickly these days, but our track coach made us practice at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. He literally hosed us down while we were running intervals in between intervals so that we would not pass out from heat exhaustion. And he would say things to us like, "This is where you win." And he's not wrong. He's really not wrong. And then two-a-days in Texas in August and September, good Lord, that was miserable. All right, so let's talk about Trump and China. Now, Democrats and Republican appeasers like my opponent are convinced that Trump is a madman with no method behind his madness. But the reality is that he and his team collectively called Trump 2.0. By the way, I got to tell you, I love the Marco Rubio photos with Marco Rubio now realizing that he has to be a drug lord or a ski team captain or a whatever else. But those are cracking me up. So Trump and his team honestly are implementing U.S. grand national strategy against China, and it's very refreshing to see. So they want to comprehensively contain China and then coerce it into a lopsided trade deal that could rebalance China's economy towards household consumption. Now, is that American household consumption or is that Chinese domestic household consumption? Again, these words matter. That, I want to know what the goal is. Now, does that mean producing things for us? I would much rather we make it to where we don't need anything from China. Now, piling too much pressure on them, however, at once could spook them into lashing out in desperation before the window of opportunity for them to rise closes. Now, you're saying that can't be true. Remember, it is the U.S. oil embargo on Japan that led to their decision to either strike north into Russia or south into the Pacific to guarantee themselves resources. So you have to be careful when you start slowly choking an enemy out, which is what President Trump is doing. So I think they are on the path to gradually deprive China of access to markets and resources. Ideally, this will be through a series of trade deals. However, our president, much to his credit, is absolutely not unwilling to use force when necessary. All right, so what does this do? It gives President Trump the indirect leverage to peacefully derail China's superpower rise. The trade deals with the EU and India will result, if we implement them the way they're designed to be, in curtailing China's access to their markets under the pain of punitive tariffs if they refuse. In parallel, President Trump's special operation in Venezuela, and I don't like the media calling it that because that's what Putin calls his effort to invade Ukraine. So let's just say the United States military operation to remove a drug kingpin in Venezuela also increased pressure on China because we deprive them of a source of oil. Now we see the significant military buildup, next topic, as pressure against Iran. We are also working to subordinate Nigeria and other energy producers to curtail China's access. I guarantee you the military trade deals that we have seen go to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates were in exchange for what we wanted, reference China. President Trump is wisely using all aspects of American diplomatic and military power, as well as economic power, to contain our enemy. Now, Russia. Russia is the last remaining, I'm going to call it free source of Chinese oil. All right. Now, President Trump promised on the campaign trail that he was going to curtail this war. And what I'm wondering, again, I think it was a failure not to immediately be able to bring it to the peace table. But sometimes in life you fail and it actually works out for you in the long run. And this may be one of those situations because this has drugged the war out with Ukraine. All right. And it's led to a situation where Russia just can't do what they want to do militarily. Paper tiger is not accurate. War is hard, and it's incredibly hard from a logistic standpoint these days. But Russia has shown itself to not be as militarily, have as much military prowess as we thought they did. And I don't think they can actually take Ukraine near term. So I think that war is going to drag out, and eventually the Russian people will get tired of it, just like they did in Afghanistan. So I think you will see one of two things. Russia is going to have to decide whether it cuts a deal with the United States or it becomes dependent on China. It's really one or the other. It is a binary choice for Vladimir Putin, and I guarantee you he hates this fact. In the first scenario, Russia could become a resource-centric strategic partner with the United States in exchange for compromising a little bit of its goals in the Ukraine. And that could also, for us, deprive China of access to the deposits of strategic minerals that have been identified there. That's the best case scenario. Also, there is this small little matter of Russia could be a willing and good ally against potential Middle East problems in the future. We have more in common with their people. It's our governments that just have never gotten along. Now, again, when they were communists, there's a reason we didn't get along with them, and they are a dictatorship right now, but they are evolving into more of a republic. They're not there yet, but I'm telling you, the people of Russia were brutally savaged, and they have a collective societal memory of what was done to them in World War II. They do not want war. All right. It is their government that wants war. The American people, by and large, don't want war, but we're not afraid to fight it if we need to. But we would much rather just watch our football teams and be happy. All right. Now, the second scenario for Russia is they could continue their special operation indefinitely with growing Chinese support in exchange for China receiving unrestricted access to Russian resources at bargain basement prices, thus greatly helping China prepare for war with the United States. So President Trump has a choice. I honestly believe that if he went to Moscow after a deal had been made, that it would, maybe just a ceasefire momentarily, maybe some type of, I'm going to call it permanent ceasefire with discussions going on. But I think if we could get Trump and Putin in a room in the same way that we got Reagan and Gorbachev in a room, that things would change. And I really am hopeful that at some point in time, we can actually get these two together to do something good for our country. And I believe that it actually should happen soon. So it is in the U.S.'s long-term interest to pull Russia from China. All right. But there is a looming wild card in this situation. All right. And that wild card is Iran. Now, if we effect regime change in Iran and strike the deal with Russia, we have then, without using military force directly against the Chinese, effectively strangled them of the one ingredient you cannot wage modern war without, and that is oil. Now, again, we have the military capability to close the Straits of Malacca without question. We have the military capability to stop oil going from Russia to China as well, but I would much rather do that materially, and I think it could benefit both the American people and the Russian people if we could do that. Now, Southern, I know you pay a lot of attention to geopolitics, but your thoughts on this? Do you think that Trump and Putin can't talk? I mean, let's be honest. Putin came to Alaska, so it's our turn to go somewhere there. What are your thoughts?
I'm actually against Trump going into Russia. I don't mind them meeting somewhere else, like a neutral territory. I don't mind Putin coming back here and them talking again. I think the biggest problem is going to be anything that they discuss, Zelensky's not going to agree to. Like we saw when he left Alaska, there was things that they agreed to, and Zelensky's like, through his little hissy fit, I wasn't invited, I should have been there, and now I'm not going to agree to it. So I think he's the bigger issue when it comes to peace talks than it is Putin.
Totally agree. Shell, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think President Trump ought to go to Russia?
Yeah, I'm kind of undecided, but if I were him, I would. But his attempts on his life and things that have been happening here lately, give me pause. But I think it would be a power move. I really do. I
totally agree with you. I think, even if we didn't get anything, I don't think it would be cast as failure. Your thoughts, Southern?
I think they should meet in Greenland. I came to this decision.
And while they're talking, have the Marines land and now call it Orange Land and announce the construction of the new Trump Tower. I love it. Love it. Go ahead, Shell.
The Alaska summit wasn't that long ago.
Right.
What do you, Larry, want to see come out of another Trump-Putin summit, even if it's in Russia?
I would like to see a deal between, and maybe it's just a small thing, but a deal between the United States and Russia reference, I would say, the strategic missile treaties that have expired. I would like to see a resources deal, and I would also like to see increased commercial ties in some way. Right now, our embargo against their dark fleet is having an impact on them. And I think, if we could somehow get an agreement, maybe we give up a little bit of that embargo, even though I realize that's feeding the Russian war machine, in exchange for some of the things we want. I mean, we need to keep our eye on the prize. There's really no strategic U.S. interest in Ukraine other than, not letting another nation invade one, but there is a huge strategic interest in us stopping the rise of China. So that's what I'd like to see. Even if it's a small step, I just want the leaders in the rooms talking. I mean, remember, Reagan and Gorbachev met several times. I think it was Reykjavik and Geneva, and I don't remember the sequence of it. I believe they met in Geneva first and then Reykjavik. I could be wrong. But, their first meeting was not a success, and Reagan took a lot of hits from it because they said that he should have made a deal with the Russians, and because he didn't make a deal, he got what he wanted the next time around. Go ahead, Shell.
So you don't think that Ukraine's mineral cache is a benefit to us, or why did Trump tout that so much and want to sign a mineral rights with Ukraine if you don't think it's beneficial?
Well, I do think it's beneficial. I just think that Russia has a lot more of them. And a lot of the Ukraine's minerals are actually controlled by the Russian military right now. So again, I think a lot of it was trying to prop up Zelensky a little bit, in my opinion. He's really a problem. I don't think. Sometimes you have to accept military reality. And the military reality is they have seized a large portion of the eastern part of Ukraine. The problem we have is that they want 4 more oblasts, which they have not seized. They have pieces of their military, I believe, in 2 of them right now. But, Putin's trying to negotiate for extra territory that he doesn't occupy. Seems to me if we could just get him to accept what's there, but then Zelensky says, well, I'm not giving up even a little sliver of Ukraine. Well, buddy, you lost Crimea a long time ago. You lost the eastern part of the Donbass region and other areas a long time ago. So military reality, at some point in time, hopefully will intrude into the leaders and they will actually, sue for peace at some point. All right, I want to move on to the next topic, and that is another Middle Eastern war. All right, the Pentagon is said to be preparing for a sustained, weeks-long military campaign against Iran if President Trump gives the green light. Now, this is coming from Reuters, which cites 2 U.S. officials. Some who better remember the recent Iraq and Afghan war, here we go again with Vietnam, from the left-wing media, say it won't be just weeks, but any major Iran action has the likelihood of becoming a lengthier and bloodier than envisioned quagmire. That's another word the left uses when they want to stop the right from doing something, quagmire. All right, now, even as White House officials have touted the idea of limited strikes in Iran, akin to the swift and easy Venezuela operation, Pentagon planners are being more realistic in admitting immediate Iranian retaliation throughout the region that would make it more complex. Now, Trump, of course, ran on a campaign to stop the forever wars and to not start any new ones, especially in the Middle East. So blowback on the war on, Washington has had a horrible and bloodstained track record. Blowback also defined the period of the global war on terror as groups like ISIS arose in the wake of blah, blah, blah. All right. This is a tough one. All right, but here's what I think will happen if we actually hammer them. I believe that the communist media and their allies, all right, if we do something now, which results in a sustained combat operation in Iran, will cause a bloodbath for the Republicans so severe that it will even reach down into state legislative races like my own. I think the Republicans are playing with extreme fire right now. The amount of fatigue even hardcore hawks like myself have for military operations in the Middle East should be taken into account. All right, we are already seeing, because of Pam Bondi's inaction, Republicans staying home. All right, I'm telling you right now, I am seriously worried about Senator Jasmine Crockett becoming a reality. You're saying there is no way. I've been at the polls the last week. I am telling you, Democrats are coming in and they are voting. All right, now, I don't think Tallarico will win. I just don't see how he does. I mean, honestly, he's got the charisma of a piece of Baird's white bread. I mean, he's nothing to me. And Crockett, I can't stand her. I hate her politics, but she's at least got fire. And I see the Democrats mobilizing around her against the Republicans. And why are Republicans staying home? In my opinion, because President Trump's administration, not him, his administration is not delivering any wins from the Department of Justice. We are not seeing what we wanted to see in terms of accountability. You know, the lead story here was how that our own senators and congressmen may be bought off by the cartels. We know they are. We've been saying for weeks, in the story for months, to where people have fatigue over it, is how our own senators and congressmen may be involved in raping children. And it's being covered up by our government. President Trump promised he would bring Epstein to the front. Okay, Pam Bondi has said that the government would fall if we knew the truth. I'm sorry. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You tell the truth, period. This has got to come out. And if it doesn't come out, if this administration does not take action and do these things, we are going to get our tails kicked, and it is going to hurt even more. But back to Iran. All right, let's get to some facts here rather than what the White House is saying. You know, they're saying the usual stuff. All options are on the table. Congress is saying the usual stuff. Well, we're going to enact the War Powers Resolution. No, you're not. You're not going to do anything. Congress, you don't do anything. You are literally 435 leeches sucking off of the American taxpayer. You do nothing. I mean, it drives me insane. All right. Now, currently in the Middle East right now, there is a base in Jordan. All right. And this is satellite imagery, open source. You can grok it and see that I'm not lying, but they say there are about 60 to 66 fighter and attack aircraft, 18 to 30 F-35s, all right, 17 to 36 F-15s, including Strike Eagle, some F-16s, A-10s. Now you know they're getting serious when they put the ultimate weapon, the A-10, into the area. And EA-18G Growlers. Now, why would they do that? All right, A-10s are mainly there to support ground operations. You're right there, but they also have another role that we have not necessarily talked about, and that is combat search and rescue. Should an American airplane get shot down, there is a process and a plan that is heavily dependent on some of the systems inside the A-10, as well as the training that A-10 pilots undergo to go and find guys on the ground, to protect guys on the ground until the helicopters can get there, and then to escort the helicopters both in and out of a combat operation. So that's why they would be there without any military presence on the ground. Now, broader estimates across the rest of the region show that there are approximately 50 additional fighters, F-35s, Raptors. Now, when the ultimate in aerial combat weapons, the Raptor, leaves the CONUS, somebody's getting ready to have their you-know-what kicked. All right, there's F-15s and F-16s there. They say that there are upwards of 100-plus combat aircraft in the Middle East right now, not including the 2 aircraft carriers that are either on station or arriving, all right, which would contribute another 100 to 140-plus fighter attack aircraft from naval aviation. So currently, unless they're moving without being noticed, there are no full divisions of either our Army or our Marine Corps being deployed to the Middle East. So what does it look like we're going to see? I think it's quite possible we will see a sustained aerial campaign to assist in regime change, with the U.S. Navy and Special Forces, U.S. Army and Navy Special Forces doing what they're trained to do, and that is to build up and to assist an insurgency. I mean, think about the origins of the Green Berets. What were they designed to do? They went into Vietnam to help stop an insurgency. Well, how do you stop something? You learn how to do it. All right, so on the whole insurgency, counterinsurgency table, we can operate up and down on both sides of that spectrum. So I think you're going to see regime targets bombed. I'm very hopeful that it will be as successful as the Israeli Air Force's campaign. And I'm also hopeful that the Iranians have the stomach to actually assist us. You know, now, and I say that because how many times did we hear, inside every Vietnamese soldier is an American waiting to get out. Inside every Iraqi is an American waiting to get out. Oh, the Iraqis or the Afghanis just need American democracy and they'll convert. No. Okay, each culture has its own thing. Now, the regime has slaughtered estimates of upwards of 90,000 of their own citizens. Do they have the stomach to fight? Are they willing to fight? I don't know. But what I do think is I think we're heading in that direction. Now, again, President Trump is a master negotiator. And the point at which your highest point of leverage is when you're most ready to attack. So I am very, very hopeful that we will have a deal with Iran, and they are meeting in Oman right now this week to where we do not have to go to war, because I think it will wreak havoc on the GOP if we get involved in a sustained combat operation in Iran. Go ahead, Raging.
Yeah, so speaking with some intelligence officers that are here on the platform, he came in, one of the guys, his name is AJ. He's pretty good at this. He was detailing the amount of visits that we have set to the Middle East in that area. Recently, one of them was canceled, Marco Rubio's Friday one. but there's ongoing conversations. I don't think that anything will happen there. I think what Trump wants is a peace plan or some type of deal, because he loves to pride himself on being the president of peace. So I think he's trying his darndest not to start something in that area. I think shows of force is what people are seeing, but we are prepared to go in, I guess, just in case. It's the just in case method.
Yeah, but I mean that is a lot of national treasure that is going over there right now. And so, like I said, this is the most sustained military buildup since 2003. However, take comfort in the fact that there is, to my knowledge, and again, open source, I don't have any classified sources, nor do I want them. But to my knowledge, there have been no land forces mobilized to go over there yet. Shell, have you heard anything different? You or the Colonel?
No, sir, but I'll get an update from him today.
Sounds great. All right, folks, we are getting ready to wrap up. Southern, do you have anything else, ma'am? And then I'm going to go ahead and just wrap with the quotes, because I do have to go get to work, and then I actually have to do something to feed myself this week, and then get to the polls and try and win this election.
No, sir, I'm okay.
All right, so let's finish with 3 quotes, and they're Knights Templar quotes. Again, a book that I fed myself prior to my incarceration. And I'm not lying when I say I do consider myself a Christian knight. All right, again, that's the way they trained us to think at the Air Force Academy. There's a quote, Guilio de Hay, "It is probable that future war will be conducted by a special class of the Air Force, much as it was by the armored knights of the Middle Ages." So that's the way I was trained to think my entire life. But I think it's important that we as Christians stand up for our faith. All right, and I think it's important that we start to wear our faith more publicly as we are confronting the demons on the left in the terms of the Red-Green Alliance. So, the greatest battle fought is not with swords, but within the depths of one's own soul. That is definitely true. Who are you as a person? And what will you do when adversity hits? So the next quote, "In the face of adversity, a true knight remains steadfast and unyielding. Know what your core principles are before you get hit, and they will stick with you." And the last, and I believe this is one thing that makes the American soldier, sailor, airman, Marine far different than anyone else. All right. We fight not for glory or wealth, but for the protection of the innocent and the defense of justice. Yes, I still believe that. I have to believe that. I will always believe that, because my country is committed to Justinian warfare. We will kick your tail, but we will try and do it the right way in accordance with the laws of war, and we will try and minimize civilian casualties, which is pretty much, we are the only country other than Great Britain or Australia that will go to those lengths as well. So that's it for the day. Let me go ahead and talk about some shows that I think you should definitely get to. All right, in the morning we have the Punch Bowl. All right, that is a daily staple here. Shell is on with Colonel Manus. I believe that's 2 o'clock Eastern, correct, ma'am?
3 p.m. Eastern.
3 p.m. Eastern. Okay.
Pre-show starts at 2:30.
Outstanding. And then Southern, you have Everything and Nothing on at 10 p.m. Eastern. And Raging Rigo, what time is your show, sir?
Right after yours.
All right.
You know, we squeeze it in between you and Shell's to keep our flow of conservative, our side type of politics going and information. So, yeah, we squeeze it in there.
Perfect. All right. Well, listen, everyone. Thank you. Have a blessed day. I will see you guys next Monday, because there's no polling next Monday. So, but I'll be sitting. I've got, 12 times 4 is 48 plus about 4 today. So 52 hours of sitting at the polls trying to win votes. So God bless each and every one of you. And I am signing out